Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll talk a lot about the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk about college baseball, the LSU Tigers, Southeastern Lions, and, of course, the NBA Finals. We got some chance down the line. We'll talk about the Pelicans. We got a great guest. So it's a homecoming of sorts. Gus Kattengell, Larry Holder, formerly of the Sports Hangover at WIST Radio, where we had a great run. And, of course, Gus still doing the Sports Hangover. Larry now with the New Orleans Times-Picayune. And, gentlemen, I say that lightly.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Absolutely.
Welcome back. Good to have you guys back.
Dude, it's a party. It's like together again.
Exactly.
What you got in your cup? Nom Creek. He's got vodka. Or he's got Smoker's Cough. Jaeger and mayonnaise.
Jaeger and mayonnaise.
Me, I'm just sporting Red Bull.
Red Bull and vodka. So we will be partying.
Yeah, this is a party time.
No, it is a party, no doubt. Thanks for coming down, guys.
Sure, yeah.
Both of you guys were at OTA today. We'd like to start off letting the folks know a little bit about what you're involved in. Gus, tell them about your great show.
Well, it is the show that I started, of course.
Never.
The name, we like to take credit for it. 12 to 3 weekdays, and it's just never anything that you can't talk about for sure.
No doubt.
Much less now at the time of the year, even though you are starting into the summer. It's just, you can just feel it not only with people calling and everything, the excitement that football is finally here and everything. So 12 to 3 each and every day on ESPN New Orleans 100.3.
Beautiful. Larry, talking about the Times-Picayune, NOLA.com. Don't forget about that great chat.
Yes, after the show I created with the name I created, Gus is lucky that he had me.
Somewhere Dan Frazier's screaming about that name.
He is right
Exactly.
now.
Of course, I'm about to make my 5-year mark at the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com. We're doing everything, full blast Saints, full blast everything. Of course, I'm a Saints columnist. And you mentioned our Dat Chat podcast. Actually, we did it this afternoon after Gus got off the air. It was perfect timing at the Saints facility. Jeff Duncan and myself, we do that each and every week, and it's been a big-time success. And I think this is great. Look, us three should be doing TV every week.
Every week.
Candid camera stuff.
We'll just can the rest of the show. We'll just do it all three of us.
Well, it's funny you asked. One of our listeners for a long time was asking, "Where's Joe Cardosi? We need Corey here.
Right.
We need the whole gang."
Well, Corey's laying on a beach somewhere right now.
In his own mind.
Right. And who knows where Cardosi is? At a comedy club?
We wondered that during the show as well.
Exactly. You too, huh?
Usually it was just us sabotaging Gus.
Exactly. My producer for so long, Joe. I was wondering, where was Joe? Where's Joe at? No doubt. Guys, let's get started. First of all, Sean Payton not at camp today. Some other coaches not at camp. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was the first thing kind of we noticed. It was quiet. You didn't have the typical, I guess, coaching talk and loudness that you heard, but we saw it 2 weeks ago, and that you couldn't miss it. The decals of Cortez Kennedy's numbers, 96 on the helmet. And that was the first thing we saw today was no Coach Payton. And I'm like, where's Curtis Johnson? Because the receivers are kind of working out. And sure enough, Larry walked over and found out that it was because they were attending his life celebration services.
Right, yeah. And Cortez Kennedy, maybe not too many people knew this, but they considered him a lifelong Saint. He considered himself as well in that regard. Big time advisor, extremely close with Mickey Loomis. In fact, a namesake and godfather to one of his children, Cortez was as well. And so it's a big loss for the Saints, and I wonder if they go even further to honor him during the season. But right now in the offseason, they're doing that. And look, it's OTAs, and of course you understood. Sure. Even if it was in season, you would understand it. Yeah. So it's a big loss for the Saints and someone that they really leaned on, and look, a Hall of Famer.
No, he was a great player.
He was one of the best ever to play at defensive tackle in the NFL.
You wish you would have had him for the Saints on the inside of that defensive line. Yes. No doubt about that. 6 practices into OTAs. You guys have seen 2. Larry, I'll start with you first. Your thoughts on the at least the 2 days that you guys have been able to see.
Well, you go back to the first one, which was a couple weeks ago that we saw, and to me, it was the Adrian Peterson we got to see him for the first time, and where he's going to fit in with the offense. And then today, we got to see some other offensive weapons that kind of stuck out in my mind. Ted Ginn was being Ted Ginn. He was beating people deep, catching deep balls, and then dropped an easy one over the middle. And my buddy who covered Ted Ginn for a bunch of years at the Charlotte Observer, Joe Person, he just put on Twitter, the Ted Ginn experience is down in the bayou because he can make the awesome and then drop the mind-boggling. And then also I thought offensively Alvin Kamara looked very good, and he is etched into his Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles role. And look, Ted Ginn, Devery Henderson, all you got to do is reverse the tape back to those players and their clear vision. It's Sean Payton. I'm using his words. Clear vision, and it's as crystal clear as humanly you can get with the Kamara and with the Ted Ginn role with this offense already.
Yeah, for sure. I'll take what he had to it and just go over to the defensive side too, because that's one of the things that I looked at. Offense hasn't been an issue with this team. They've been 7-9 for 3 straight seasons because they can't stop anybody. And they have a good quarterback. They find ways to get people to play receiver. They make do with their running backs. It seems like they always find a tight end and do it. It's the ability to stop. And it's strange because, guys, we talk about this a lot. It's not like they haven't tried. I mean, we were just talking about today, Vaccaro, right, going into his final year, another first-round pick. They have used first-round picks, second-round picks, free agent money, Jarris Byrd, which they're going to get a bump tomorrow, $7 million plus in the post-June 1 cut thing that they got going. So they got a little more money to salary cap, but still, it's just nuts. They have tried.
Yes.
It's just Stephon Anthony, a first-round pick. It just hasn't panned. So I've been paying attention to there because I would say it's the first time in a long time you can pencil in a Saints defensive line. That's not too bad, at least on paper. It fairly plays like it did last year. Jordan's coming off probably one of his best, if not best, season. You saw what Rankins did in half of the season already with 4 sacks. Okafor, there's a lot of hope. He had, 2 sacks today by some people's counts in today's OTA. So you're sitting there going, okay, I can kind of, but it's the linebacking situation. Who plays there? Who's the opposite of corner? They went and got a first-round draft pick there. The second-round pick, Marcus Williams, he had a stellar practice again today. Seems to always be around the football. So potential, theory on paper, I think they've upgraded on defense. It's how do they all come together, the parts?
You mentioned the $7 million bump tomorrow, probably the reason why they have not signed the rookie class yet, right?
Actually, leading up to it today, rookies were signing as we spoke. Alex Anzalone, I know, Al-Qadim Muhammad, and Trey Hendrickson all have agreed to terms, and so they're waiting on the Jarris Byrd money.
Yes,
so post-June 1, it was specific. The Saints aren't running out and spending money on someone. They're spending it all in their rookie class, and that ball is going to get rolling. And the only guy who might not be right away by the end of this week or by the end of tonight would be Ryan Ramczyk. I think they're waiting to see, honestly, what the injury does because he's not ready to go yet.
Right. Well, let's talk about the rookie class. Larry, why don't you take it first? What have you observed about this rookie class?
Gus mentioned Marcus Williams, and to me, he's already the one kind of being embedded. The Saints are going to seemingly try to find every way they can to get him on the field. To me, as the center field free safety, he's a better fit than Von Bell. I think he's going to be Jarris Byrd, except he's got wheels and he can make plays. And I wonder why he fell so far in the draft. Honestly, you hear he's book smart, football smart, has athletic ability, and Utah's not some little hole in the ground school. Right. So it's kind of, I feel like the Saints are really going to have a gem there. Again, this is overreaction OTAs, but still, he's already in there, and you can see some ability. Marcus Lattimore, at least from this time, we saw him. He was getting a little more time with the ones, because last week when we saw it, he was kind of relegated to the threes. And you look at Anzalone, he actually got, I'm not going to call it the first team defense, but he saw some time at linebacker today against the first team offense. So they're throwing everyone in there at linebacker. And then already mentioned Kamara. And then even Hendrickson, I think, saw a snap or two with the ones. So they're throwing everybody in there as soon as possible, because they know they need these guys to come in and play right away. And they've had that happen in 2015. It didn't work. They're going to have to try to make it work at this point in time.
Why don't you break the rookie class down for us?
I think one of the things that you see, too, it kind of adds to my overall theme on this, and I kind of call it last call, to kind of use a New Orleans term. Yeah. You can just sort of see they're trying to bring in more talent. And quite honestly, as I said a little bit ago, when you're 7-9 for 3 straight seasons, everything's on the table. And I think that Mark Ingram, when Peterson came in, probably answered the right way. You can't get hurt feelings. You know what I mean? It hasn't worked. There's only one person that should be comfortable in that building. That's number 9. He's good.
Sure.
And he pushes himself harder than anybody. And I think when you look at this class, going back to what Larry mentioned, using Sean Payton's words, the clear vision, you absolutely see it. The very first passing drill of OTA last week, Alvin Kamara was in the backfield catching a pass. I'm like, all right, already you're seeing that. Today, I think, as he's saying, there's no doubt Marcus Williams is going to see a lot of snaps, if not start. And it's just because he's just always around the football. In the 7-on-7 drill, he had 3 PBUs, pass breakups, in one drill. And there was another one in the team drill where I wrote could have killed somebody, because I think it was the one lone good pass that Garrett Grayson threw down the middle. He just stood there and he could have decapitated him. I think it was Garrett Griffin, the receiver, caught it, and as he turned around, he was right there, 43, and he 2-hand hard tuck. But if it was in the game, he would have laid him out. So he just wherever the ball is and you're following it with your eyes, there's 43. It's kind of nuts to sort of see that. You're going to have to see, I guess, in some game action, and once we start getting in when it comes to Lattimore, just because of the position of where he goes. And Anzalone's got size. That's something else that stood out to me, too. He went side to side on a couple of plays today. So I think that's the biggest thing that I'm looking at in that linebacking core. And I know it's not the rookie class, but the other storyline that stood out to me, and I mentioned linebackers, Stephon Anthony. He's seeing a lot of time, and he's seeing in the middle. He's the Mike linebacker at times, and he's with the ones. And today, during the second team drill, Drew Brees is calling out the Mike linebacker 50, and it's him. And on that play, you're saying going speed side to side, he made the 2-hand touch on the tackle. So it's crazy. Here's a guy that could not get dressed last year, and at least in 2 OTAs, he's there. I mean, you cannot miss him.
Right. Pick up Stephon Anthony and your thoughts, because, I mean, almost unfair to him, the multiple defensive coordinators trying to be able to absorb everything, throwing him into the mix, asking him to be the Mike as a rookie, obviously leading the team in tackles, but a guy that was out of position, slow in getting the call in at times. That's why, again, we saw some big plays on the defense. What do you think about his maturation process?
I think it's still an ongoing process, and we're probably nowhere really near knowing what his role is going to be on the team. Gus mentioned Stephon Anthony. Yeah, he did play with the ones, and there was a lot of mixing and matching. But to me, it was him and Craig Robertson in that one group today.
Right.
When the 2s came on, it was A.J. Klein and Dannell Ellerbe. Guess what? Those are still your 1s.
Yes.
But you got to give Stephon Anthony a shot, and that's what OTAs is all about. You got to figure out where a guy can potentially go once you get to training camp. How serious can you be with him? And the jury's still way out on him. The fact that he couldn't find a spot last year on defense, he couldn't find a spot on special teams.
Right.
His injury, it's the Rodney Dangerfield. Oh, my arm, IR, see you later.
That's exactly what that was.
It wasn't because he was so badly hurt. The guy had no role. And is Mike Nolan going to be this magician? I'm not going to say yes, but at least it gives him a second, third chance, because it's year 3, and that's when you start making your grades on a rookie class. And I'm still going to be staunch saying, to me, if you were looking for a big name who's on the bubble, he's the guy on the bubble of making this roster.
Let's talk about the linebackers. Somebody put a lot of guys in this year and hoping to be able to get maybe 4 or 5 guys that can consistently play for this team. What are your thoughts? Just based off T-shirts and shorts at OTAs.
It's funny. We talked about it on our show today, and I look, and again, sort of like I was saying about the D line, you can sort of pencil in. I think they've upgraded in talent in that secondary. And be able to see what their go there. To me, the question mark on this team is that linebacking core, which is nuts because a lot of the plays that we saw, and again, this position group package or whatever, it's just 2 linebackers. I think the Saints are still going to go heavy with 3 safety looks a lot of times, if not an extra DB, which again, I think goes to show you because I don't think they have the right linebackers. I would assume, I don't know, maybe the league is changing and maybe that's just where it goes. You don't need 3 or 4 good linebackers. I still think you would need some. And in this division, it's something that I know I harp on all the time. He's probably tired of hearing it. I can't think if it's ever happened where in your division you have a Super Bowl champ back-to-back years in your division and also
Super Bowl runner-up. Don't give the Falcons a championship.
Super Bowl runner-up.
People be calling this show being like, Goose.
And come on. NFL MVPs, right? So Cam Newton and the Panthers, Matt Ryan and the Falcons, back-to-back years. And when you look at what those offenses were able to do, especially with Tampa going and get their draft pick this year, and O.J. Howard, the tight end, the linebackers got smoked against the Falcons last year. And it's just that area, that position group needs such an upgrade. So, and again, though, they'll be the first one to tell you, you need pads. You need hitting. You need contact to be able to judge that group. We can see Marcus Williams knock down a ball. We can see a receiver catch or drop a ball like Brandon Coleman did today. But linebacker, until we can hit, it's hard to judge.
But you are looking for athleticism. You are looking to see if they know the scheme, if they got that down. Especially guys that are calling the signals. Do they know what they're doing? And that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Your thoughts on linebackers?
Yeah, I think A.J. Klein, the fact that the first OTA we got to watch and he was the middle linebacker with the ones just goes to show you they expect him to have it down pat already. And it's different than last year. Last year, they brought in a new crop of linebackers. They brought in James Laurinaitis. They brought in Nate Stupar. They brought in Craig Robertson. A.J. Klein is better than James Laurinaitis. Is he all-pro? No, but he's better
than Robinson?
I think at middle linebacker, I think he would be. I honestly do. Because if he was not, a lot of times when you start off OTAs and mini camps, you keep the same guy there because he knows the system. Look, Craig Robinson wasn't there. He wasn't in the middle linebacker. He had middle linebacker. He's been a weak side guy. So they're already saying, no, Craig, you're out. If we're down to our 4th middle linebacker, you'll be our guy. But he's their number 2 weak side linebacker. And it's like the sun and the moon come out. Donnell Ellaby's going to get hurt at some point. So Robertson's going to be playing there. But Klein is better than what they've had in the last couple of years. Is he incredible? No. Manti Te'o, he did see some field time actually today, 7-on-7 to end some teams. It was with the 3rd team, but they're working him back in. Where does he fit in? But you at least feel like, okay, Klein is a better option than Laurinaitis. Anzalone at least gives you some hope and that he can come in and be maybe better than a Stupar and a Robertson at some point. So it's not kind of these special teams guys, you're throwing them in there and they're going to play. They at least feel like they've got some viable options at linebacker that are more than just, oh gosh, we got to turn to these guys.
That was the issue what he just said. I mean, the guys you went out and got last year to be special team contributors because he wanted to improve special teams. They wanted to be in your starters at linebacker and Stupar and Robinson. I mean, that was the issue. So to his point, it's not really you're ripping Stupar Robinson. Good. That wasn't the plan to begin with. You didn't want them to be starters. And again, it's not a disrespect thing, but and it's something we've talked on your show too. For the special teams to improve in this team, you want guys that are pushing starters at linebacker and at defensive back, maybe even receiver, to get snapped because that's the only way they can get dressed. That's what you want. Last year they were pulling people off of wires to be on special teams, and that's why we're 7-0.
everybody worried about the defensive end opposite Cam George is going to be the rush end. I like Okafor. If he can stay healthy, I really think that he's going to be a guy that they can be a force on that side. But they got Hendrickson, they got Muhammad. Talk about just the mix of guys that are going to be at that position and what you've seen out of them, again, in shorts and T-shirts at OTAs.
Yeah, I think it'll be same thing, sort of like linebacker, at least at that position for now. It'll be a mix of it. And Sean Fazan was the one that tweeted it out earlier today that he counted by his count Okafor with 2 sacks. I know Darryl Tapp got in there and got on one as well. Again, I'm still waiting to see if Kaká can get healthy and stuff. And what's interesting with him is when Ryan was the defensive coordinator, he always seemed to be around the ball.
Yes.
And again, whether it was injury or not, when Allen then became the D coordinator, became a situational pass rusher only, and you didn't see him as much on the field. So does he work his way back into being on there? Because, again, special teams, we're talking about it. What was it, the Colts game on the road where he stripped the fumble on a kickoff. So I think you need players sort of like that. So if he can sort of help, if it's Okafor that can sort of get it, it's wide open. That job is definitely up. But, again, I know it's practice, it's OTAs, but Okafor at least is, and he thinks if he's healthy, he can be back.
And he's a veteran guy, and he's done it before. Again, when he's healthy, is Kaká healthy right now, or is he still being limited at practice?
He was on the field today, wearing a helmet and doing some individual stuff, not doing team drills. So they're easing him back in, but the fact he's on the field is he's doing some things. But they're going to have to figure out a role, because to me right now, yes, the job's open, but it's Okafor's until someone beats him out. I think it's his. And you mentioned health. It's exactly what Dennis Allen said last week. He says if that guy's healthy, he's certainly someone who can come in. And when he's played healthy, he's been well.
Yes.
And even last year in limited role, he was actually effective for Arizona. And to me, this is Nick Fairley 2.0. 1-year deal, complete motivation. If he shoots for the stars, the Saints can maybe get him, or he can get himself a bigger deal. But if not, you move on. So and Alex Okafor actually talked with the media earlier this afternoon, and he said it. He knows there's a job open for him, and it's there for him for the taking, because it's gonna. I'm not going to be totally sold on Hendrickson. I'm not going to be totally sold on Muhammad. And they're going to have to beat out Okafor, in my eyes. And Okafor has been with the ones basically the whole time. And I don't anticipate anything changing unless these guys come out of nowhere and are fantastic. And honestly, I'm just not going to anticipate that right now.
So early, but just your thoughts on the free agent class and how they've kind of developed within with a short time within the Saints system. Yeah,
I mean, I think definitely as Larry was saying, we've kind of gone over some names already, and you see him plugged in as, stars with the ones, and you sort of see that with whether it's Klein, whether it's Okafor, you're seeing it. I think what's impressive, and Larry was kind of joking about this on our show earlier today, they really like Adrian Peterson over there. I mean, a lot. And a lot of it is how he looks, how energetic he is. Right. He can tell you a little bit more about that being in there today. And as, again, more and more people, I mean, Kobe Fleener couldn't stop talking about how good he looks in the gym and stuff. And we've yet to hear from Adrian.
He doesn't look 32. I saw him in Mr. One Fish House when he first met the media or met John DeShazer in an interview. He went there afterwards. And, of course, all the fans were taking photographs with him. The guy looks like he's in his mid-20s.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, that's some of the things that you're going to look at and to see. But it sort of looked like we sort of felt that this team had a budget, had a right, I guess, plan in mind as to attack free agency and had specific roles for them. And so far, it looks like those people are in those roles, and they're in roles that they can have their jobs if they want them. So, again, it's early to look at it, but you can name them. Name the names, and we can tell you they're probably the ones.
Let's talk about the offensive backfield, and then we'll come back to you, Gus. The mix there of players, y'all mentioned Kamara, again, that Bush-Sproles role. Obviously, you're going to have a two-headed monster with Peterson and Ingram. You hope that Peterson can push Ingram going forward. What are your thoughts there?
I think the Saints locker room wants to throw a parade for Adrian Peterson. I haven't heard anyone be talked about like this, honestly, since Drew Brees.
Really?
Honestly, it's
Wow.
people are they know he's an all-time great.
Right, sure.
They see him be a physical freak in the gym, on the field, the things he can do. So obviously he's in great physical shape. But can he get it done when people are coming after him to tackle him? I mean, that's a question mark. And I do think that people are kind of in awe of the Brees and Peterson duo. They look at these two guys like, oh, Hall of Famers. Oh, we're going to listen to everything you possibly tell us.
Sure.
I don't care how long I've been in the league. But you mentioned the running back dynamic. As much of people are in awe of Adrian Peterson, Mark Ingram's got to be thinking, what's going on here?
Yeah,
what do I need to do to deserve some respect? They had a 1,000-yard season. It's the first time since Deuce McAllister in 2006. Then, for all my good duties, they go get Adrian Peterson and they go get Alvin Kamara. But, again, it's back to the future, turn back the clock. It's the exact type of backfield the Saints had in 2009, and it's the exact type of backfield they had in 2011. They didn't have, at least the past few years, a Sproles Bush guy. They didn't have two guys they thought, man, I could interchange Ingram and Pierre Thomas. I can interchange Mike Bell. I can do this. It's a carbon copy, and it's the same way with the wide receiver core. It's a carbon copy. You have everyone who's got certain roles. And so, and you mentioned the running game. The free agent who kind of gets lost in the mix, but they spent the most for was Larry Warford. And he's come in, and I think he's going to be a boost for the offensive line. Specifically, look, it was Zach Strief still playing well. Larry Warford's there. And if Unger comes back healthy, they are primed to be able to do this. Now, again, let's see Adrian Peterson do this. Let's see all these other guys. But it's shoot for the stars, these people kind of feeling like. And look, that's part of it is that's what OTAs is, an off season. I just remember Josh Hill was the second coming of Jimmy Graham a few years ago.
Right.
And no, he wasn't. Not so much.
You know, Gus, I got in the car today when you started talking about the running backs. For the audience that maybe didn't hear you, why don't you expound on that?
Yeah, I think what's interesting, too, is how, they handle it more than anything else. I was joking with them, as I like to do there in practice, and go, that's it, Ingram better get back. That's 2 weeks he hadn't. But look.
You joke about that, but Sean Payton will be like, Mark who? Adrian Peterson, exactly. I love you. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's the thing. But here's one of the things I think that stands out to me is the Saints haven't really had a backfield where if they suffer an injury, it was sort of like that. And, you know, people, including me, I was like, going after Peterson? They traded a second-round pick for a running back? Oh, that's right. They benched Mark Ingram last year. He did have 1,000. They benched him when he had the fumbles.
Yes.
You know, and they went to Tim Hightower. So, I mean, it is as strong a backfield as they have been there. I think the biggest thing is going to be for Sean Payton is how not to tell what's coming. Because I think even when you go back to 9 and 11, what made that backfield so good is Pierre Thomas could run the ball. Pierre Thomas could catch the ball. Reggie Bush, maybe not run the ball so much, but they'd still give it to him. But
plus
he would
decoy.
get it. Exactly right. Bell, you kind of felt that he was going to be the guy that they tossed the ball off to and stuff, or he could run it as well. That's going to be, I think, Sean Payton's biggest issue going forward. Is because right now I look at it and go, Ingram, he's going to run it. I mean, you just went out and got a bruiser, right, and Peterson and Kamara to catch it out the backfield, even though every year Mark Ingram, every time he talks to me, he says he wants to be, he doesn't want to come off the field. And every down back, he wants to catch it. Well, he's not, because now you've got two other guys to do that. So what is the Mark Ingram role on this team? Because if Adrian Peterson is healthy and he's running well and he's running over people in the fourth quarter, we've seen Mark Ingram throw a tantrum.
Yes.
And what happens if it's 28 that's getting the carries? What happens if the Saints are down and they need a player off the backfield to catch, and it's Kamara and it's not Ingram? I think that's my dynamic that I'm going to pay attention to through the season. I think there's a potential to be good there. How does Mark Ingram handle that?
Let me reverse it. We've seen Adrian Peterson at his worst in the Superdome and fumble the football.
Yes.
His longest carry last year was 13 yards, and it resulted in a fumble. What if Adrian Peterson starts fumbling the football? Is Sean Payton going to have the gusto to yank him? I'm curious to see. I think this whole thing is Peyton
Very interesting.
is starstruck by Adrian Peterson. It could be potentially great, but it's one of the biggest names to ever run the football. If he's not playing well, is he going to yank him?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's this whole wild dynamic that we're gonna play with coming into this season.
See, I look at it as Ingram has always been better when he has a player pushing him that can be a physical back. We've seen it with Chris Ivory, with other players that came in that just made him a better back. And sometimes I think he needs the motivation of having somebody behind him to be able to make him play at his best. But, you're right. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. All right, what about the wide? You mentioned the wide receivers. A lot of LSU fans hoping that Trevin Durrell can come in and maybe be that fourth wide receiver. It's early yet. How do you think that shakes out?
You mentioned Trevin Durrell, and the only thing I saw him do today was drop a wide open pass over the middle, around kind of the same route that Ted Ginn ran. So far, not the best, but I haven't seen 4 other practices. I don't know what he's been doing.
Sure.
But to me, if there's a spot for him, I mean, there is a spot for him. He's gonna have to earn it. There's no doubt about it. But you look at the wide receivers, and it is crystal clear. Look, Lance Moore was out there today. He announced his retirement yesterday, signed with the Saints, and he talked, and good catching up with Lance. But he was part of a system where it was crystal clear. It was, and I can name who's who within this wide receiver core. Michael Thomas is Colston, Snead is Lance Moore, Ted Ginn is Devery Henderson, and to a degree, Brandon Coleman is Robert Meacham. That's exactly what it is right now. And I say to a degree because he's a fourth guy, and Coleman doesn't have the straight line speed as Meacham, but that's the hierarchy. It's a crystal clear hierarchy. And I wrote a column earlier this week about Michael Thomas, and I said, look, they're trying to mold him into their version of Julio Jones. And they're like, Larry, what are you talking about? Michael Thomas isn't as fast as Julio Jones. I get that. Clear cut number one, and Michael Thomas has gained about 10 pounds. He's 6'3", about 220. It's exactly what Julio Jones is. It's exactly what Larry Fitzgerald is. It's exactly what Jordy Nelson is. Des Bryant, the same thing. Yep. They're molding him into that. And he needed to get bigger because people are going to be coming after him. And so that, it's a different dynamic, though, because you don't have 1A and 1B. Right. It's number one by far, and he's going to have to learn when teams try to take him out, a la Julio Jones, a la some of these big names. He's going to have to learn to deal with that, and it's going to be different than what we saw last year with a bunch of great receivers playing very well, and you don't know where the football is going to. We know where the football is going to go this year.
Yeah, I mean, look, flat out, we did it on our show one day, and it's simply, you can just pull up the stats and you jot it down and you look at it. The New Orleans Saints had statistically the best trio of receivers in the NFL. It was better than the Giants with Beckham and company, and they got a really good rookie last year. But name it. Give me a receiving core, and the Saints statistically had more yards, more touchdowns combined, and it's something him and I talked about at practice today. Look, I get there's a lot of hope for Ginn and all of that, but look, clearly something was up to get rid of a 1,000-yard back and a back that can score a touchdown every single time he touches the football with his speed. That's Brandon Cooks. Now, do they pan out and get better this year? We'll see. But right now, I don't know how you can say that they didn't take a step down in that position group. I mean, it just is. I don't know what Michael Thomas is going to do now, as Larry said, that he's the guy. Defensive coordinators will jot down on their dry eraser board on Tuesday and on Wednesday's practice, the game plan is to take out Michael Thomas. So, as I told him today at practice, I think Kobe Fleener's play this year is going to have a lot on Michael Thomas. Because if we remember a couple of years ago when Brandon Cooks, he was struggling, there were fans calling a trade for him, that he was a bust. And I'm like, he's the only receiver worth a darn. So defenses are taking him out. Sean Payton kept talking about it, that he was double covered. It was always a high safety on. So what happened? Ben Watson, towards the middle part of the season, started becoming a player that earned him a big contract in Baltimore the year after. So that middle of the field, if it can be caught and open up, it's going to help Thomas. If Ginn catches some passes deep, it's going to help Thomas. Snead is Snead. He's gonna be the Lance Moore role. That fourth receiver spot, as he was kind of hinting at, it's wide open to me. I mean, I know people really, really want Coleman at 6'6" to be this guy. He mentioned Darrell dropped the pass. Coleman dropped the pass today. It hit him right in the hands. He was running what would be like a Colston out route that he made famous here in this team. And the thing about him that stood out to me in 2 OTs that we've been able to see, when he does make a mistake, I mean, the guy's like having an emotional explosion, and he's like really loud and demonstrative.
Well, he's made mistakes. This is the 4th offseason. He's makes mistakes, and he
feels the pressure.
He is who he is.
Yes.
That's the thing. Now, is it open? It's only open if someone a la Willie Snead breaks through the door, because Willie Snead was a nothing, a nobody, and he busted through the door. So somebody's going to have to do that, because otherwise Coleman's going to be your 4th guy. And look, team, it's not going to be as susceptible to an injury at wide receiver. If, say, Michael Thomas goes down, say Willie Snead goes down, you don't have a 1 and a 1A anymore.
Right.
So it's going to be a different dynamic, but you also have to throw in it's a different dynamic that Alvin Kamara is going to be a Sproles and a Reggie Bush.
Correct.
So they haven't had that yet. So
Right.
you can maybe code it with that, but it's going to be a different dynamic.
No doubt. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Our guests tonight, Gus Kattengell and Larry Holder. We'll be right back after these messages.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or AmcoFenceCompany.com.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Our guests tonight, Larry Holder and Gus Kattengell. We'll go to the phone lines with about 15 minutes left in the program tonight. Guys, Baton Rouge Regional this weekend, LSU, Southeastern, Rice, and Texas Southern. Poche is going to get the ball against Texas Southern, which I was a little bit surprised that Maneri went with Poche. I thought he might go with one of maybe his midweek starters, or maybe one of the other pitchers. Weather's going to be an issue this weekend. There's no doubt about that. Gus, your thoughts on the Tigers? Your thoughts on Southeastern? This is obviously huge for Southeastern getting into that large bid.
Right.
And of course, a lot of people wrote the Tigers off mid-season. They're no Omaha, no regional, etc. They're the hottest team in college baseball.
I've said this several times on our show. To me, the Tigers are our version of the Dallas Cowboys, Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James sort of thing that is covered nationally. When they win, it's either expected or they love to be lauded. Mm-hmm. And when they lose a game or a series, the earth is coming to a standstill. I mean, it's fireman-airy, here we go again and all this other stuff. Well, they finished the season like last year strongly. 16 of 18, 11 straight. But what's interesting is you brought up Mother Nature's always that X factor. Mm-hmm. And I am kind of surprised they would go with Poche on there, because normally, and it's the reason you go with the early game, is because in case you lose, you don't want to come. You play that first game Saturday, so there's strategy involved there. But the reason why I bring it up, and I'm surprised, I get what Paul Maneri is doing. I'm going to get to that in a second about pressure and expectation level, because that's what to me is the focus now. But the reason you've won 16 of 18 and 11 straight is based on the pitching that you've gotten the last month. It's been insane.
Yes.
The pitching at Mississippi State was fantastic. The pitching that you saw, at the SEC tournament was fantastic. So, but the thing is, on rain delays or cancellations or maybe double headers, you throw it all out the window now. What if Poche can't finish the game? What if he only gets 2 innings in before the rains come? You just use them up. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's the X factor here, in that pen that's had some rhythm, that starting lineup that's had that rhythm on the mound. How do stoppages in play or just, whatever? How does that affect it? I think that's going to be the interesting aspect of it. But they're playing better. They're a lot, more confident as a group in a unit. You're seeing the hitters kind of come around. The defense hasn't been making errors.
Right.
So when you had pitching, hitting, and defense, you're playing well. But over there, it's how they handle the pressure and expectations. From Stony Brook to Coastal Carolina last year, the box isn't invincible anymore. So does it get tighter, and does the pressure grow?
You mentioned pressure and expectations. Southeastern, again, playing against LSU throughout the year, being in the box before. Maybe that lessens the pressure, and they don't have a lot of expectations nationally going into the box, playing in an LSU regional.
Yeah, Matt Reiser's team's playing loose. Why not? I mean, what do you have to lose? You're not even supposed to be there. I mean, everyone's this week pretty much written that has been paved for LSU to go to Omaha. The Baton Rouge Regional is going to play the winner of the Hattiesburg Regional, and all the NCAA did is absolutely hurt my Golden Eagles. You got Mississippi State in there, and everyone's already waiting for the Bulldogs to go over there and have that
South
super
Alabama.
regional. Well, they're a 39-win team.
Right.
The mighty Illinois Chicago Fire, Larry Holder, is a 39-win team. Like, that regional is ridiculous.
Right.
Southern Miss is a 48-win team, most ever in school history. And then you have Mississippi State, which has the least amount of wins in that regional at 36. And they got swept by LSU. And they're probably itching to get there, but my point is that regional probably is going to beat each other up a little bit. Going to go through some pitchers, going to go through the mound and the ringer and all of that. So if LSU can get in and out quickly, I think that helps them. But again, it's all about the weather. I'm seeing 80-90%, man, through the week.
Oh, yeah.
I told Eric before the show I was going to actually, for once, have your back.
Thank you.
That Southern Miss got hosed.
Oh.
Yeah.
And LSU better watch out.
Oh, yeah.
All you got to say, okay, they get through this regional. Whoever's coming out of that regional is going to be good. Southern Miss, it was good enough to be a potential national seed.
Right?
Yeah.
And actually, I watched the broadcast when they made the announcements, and Chris Burke said, if there's one team that got hosed, it was Southern Miss. And it makes for the argument, why can't you seed 9 through 16? Because Southern Miss shouldn't be playing a 4-seed LSU. That region shouldn't. I know it's region.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But forget it. You got money to spend. Forget it. But as far as with LSU, you look at Southeastern. I think that's great that they're a number 2 seed. People thought they might have been a number 3 seed. They're a number 2 seed. And it's not going to be some cakewalk. So here's what I think. You mentioned Poche going Friday against Texas Southern Friday afternoon. I think they figure we need to just keep this momentum going. Don't just mess with it. Don't have some fluky loss. Forget it. Let's just go with our horses and let's go. Weather be damned, who cares? Let's go with our horses. Because I think they know. Look, the pressure's on them.
Absolutely.
The heat's on them. And you look at the regionals, it's funny. Matt Reiser is in a regional. Andy Cannizzaro's is in a regional. And shouldn't either one of those guys been uptown, maybe coaching a certain baseball team?
It is a controversy, Larry. There's a lot
with
of people.
the green and a wave.
Right.
Just a thought.
No.
Just a small thought.
And
I mean, come on. You get it on your show, don't you?
There's no question about it. And here's the other thing, if you want to add to that, because Andy's done a great job at what Mississippi State did. 13 players, he said, when he came on our show, went to the major leagues. 14 were gone from last year's team. And he went into the last weekend of the season for its shot at the Western Division title. And they're redoing their stadium there. It's got a lot of excitement. But, guys, Matt Reiser's name has been sort of tossed out there. I know Garland Gill in the Fox 8 was one of the first ones to throw it out there, but you've seen it now from people that cover the college baseball, like from the D1 baseball folks. Alabama and Tennessee have job openings, and his name popped up immediately.
Right.
And if you don't think that that's not going to – you already know how Tulane fans are. And now to see two guys – that are coaching at SEC schools, if he does get that job, Matt Reiser. And look, I think he's done a great job. I'm not talking shade on Southeastern, but
the kids call it throwing shade.
Yeah,
Goose.
my bad.
Throwing shade.
Tossing,
you don't
throwing.
I don't even know that term.
Well, it's a slight shade. I'm just saying, if I'm Matt Reiser, I got to take that job.
Right.
I got to take a job, to move up. You got to strike when the fire is hot, and he's done a really good job over there. But if a second guy that could have been the coach here coaches an SEC team and they have success, and Mississippi State continues, let's say they go on to have success, and Tennessee goes on to have some success.
Right. And they were your guys. They were in your program.
They're both Tulane guys.
Right. They're your guys.
And they wanted the job.
No doubt.
Oh, boy.
Guys, before we go to the phone lines, the NBA Finals start, Cleveland versus Golden State. Your thoughts? This is always going to be fun.
Look.
This is forever a battle between us.
This isn't just about this. This is about this whole nonsense about the GOAT and the greatest ever. So it needs to be a sweep or even a gentleman's sweep so I don't have to hear anymore how LeBron's better and all of this. Because here's what's amazing about Cavs fans and LeBron fans.
LeBron's better than who? Who are you talking about?
Jordan.
Who says this?
Oh, you haven't. Yeah,
I don't say that. Because I'm one of the biggest LeBron guys ever.
Right.
Dude, well, that's my point. They beat Boston, and all of a sudden it's, look at this. I mean, the East was a joke in the postseason playoffs. I mean, it's really, really bad.
The West was a joke, too.
Well, what Golden State
the
did,
NBA is a joke
went through
right
it
now,
right
right?
now. Exactly. Which is funny because the Commissioner David Silver yesterday came on ESPN and on Mike and Mike in the morning. He was like, I don't understand why people are saying that this is just a two-team league and all that. And preaching that he wishes teams are more patient and not trying to. I'm like, you don't have a choice. By the way, what are, as you call them, the bird brains doing? What are the Pels doing? They went out and got a second star, and now they're trying to get a third star.
Right.
That's what you have to do to compete.
Absolutely.
He thinks that teams shouldn't be building every year to try to win the championship, and I went, what are you doing?
What are you supposed to build to win?
Yeah, exactly. Again,
a lottery pick?
Because he hears it. And I'm telling I mean, look, you look at the national shows from Barkley to everybody else, they're calling this terrible. You know, I mean, so I think Warriors, though, on two things. You got Durant this year. That's a much different thing.
Huge.
Steph Curry's not injured. He was injured last year in the postseason, and in the finals, he was not himself. And more importantly, I do think Golden State has a bigger bench than Cleveland. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from this point on, but I got him in 5.
No, really, I've got Golden State in 7. How about you, Larry?
This is going to pain me.
Come on.
And I love LeBron.
Right.
He's like my best friend ever.
Ever.
Shocking.
Way more friendly than the Goose.
Yes.
I think Golden State's going to win it.
Yeah.
I think they were fortunate last year. Draymond Green.
They were up 3-1.
Was suspended, and I think they lucked out last year, honestly.
866-3200. Let's head to the phone lines to Homa and Greg. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys. I just have the panel's opinion on what they think about ranking the position groups of the New Orleans Saints from last year at this time going into OTAs versus this year at OTAs. And I'd like for you guys to rank the position groups, and I'll hang up and listen.
Ooh, if we've made any changes, I'm assuming. Well, quarterbacks, 1. That hadn't changed.
Yeah.
Ranking them. I think, let's see, are they better off at cornerback than they were probably last year? I'd say yes. Are they better off at linebacker than they were last year? I'd say yes. Defensive line, I'd say I don't know if I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because it still might be the same order. Right. I do feel like that they have upgraded in spots. Now, will that result in more wins? I don't know, but I do think that they are better in a lot of spots.
On paper and in theory, I would go, obviously quarterback 1. And I brought it up. I said it's been a long time since I've been able to say I think the Saints D-line might be pretty good this year. So I would probably put them second
Especially
to maybe the
inside,
potential
right?
of the running backs. You know?
I mean, the inside is going to I mean, they've got some really good players on the inside.
Right. No, and again, I know it's early, and I don't want to
write
that this guy is the second coming and savior of LeBron. But if Marcus Williams can be what kind of looks like he maybe will do, and the Saints can play just to cover 1, that just adds so much more that Dennis Allen can do. If you can have one guy roam the back there, you can do, because, again, what's Vaccaro's role? What does he play? If he can go back to what he sort of was as a rookie, in which he was sort of a hybrid rover and came in and supported the run. He's essentially a strong side linebacker. And if Lattimore can do well, you may be saying the secondary is probably 2 or 3. So I think the potential's there for them to upgrade.
Right. The receivers maybe an unknown right now as far as going maybe down a bit because of Cooks leaving.
Absolutely. You can't replicate Brandon Cooks. And by the way, You put Marcus Williams and LeBron James in the same sentence.
No.
What are you doing?
Because you always called them the second coming.
What are you doing? Who are you?
To Toby and Gretna. Toby, welcome. Hey, Toby.
Yeah, was Nick Fairley at the OTAs? If he wasn't, is that a red flag? Thank you.
Who didn't participate today, by the way?
Nick Fairley was not there. It's the second week in a row he was not there. And Sean Payton wasn't there to answer why. So we don't know. And it seems like their side, Nick Fairley's side of the camp, is pretty hush-hush about it too. So I think it's a concern. Look, he's gotten the big contract, and we don't know where he is. I mean, he's not even out there.
Yeah.
And it's something to where if it's the same way come next week, it should be the first question asked to Sean Payton after practice.
No doubt.
Yeah, for sure. If you don't see him by that third OTA, something's going on. Because Mark Ingram didn't work, but you see him, and he's standing there talking, and he put on Instagram, could be something with his knee, and it's not serious and stuff. But point is, if you're not seeing a guy like that, and you're wondering if it's an injury or something, and how serious can it be?
You mentioned Ramczyk earlier in the show not being signed yet, but and worried about his injury. How severe do you think that is? They made it sound like after the draft that it was a scope and he would be back. Maybe by minicamp or by training camp for sure.
Yeah, they said that, and look, of course they made it sound that way. And if it's more serious, they're not going to tell you that. It's always, he'll be back by training camp, and if it's not, well, I guess he's not. But it's something I think the Saints just want to monitor, and because it could be something that they throw in the contract. I don't know, but it's. I'm sure they're going to bank on him being, say, that sixth lineman.
Yes.
In those those tight end heavy packages, but you draft him in the first round. And it's funny. It's like Zach Strief is on his 10th life. They drafted Anders Pete. He outlasted him.
Right.
I don't know if he's going to outlast Ramczyk at some point, but it's they expect obviously big things from Ramczyk at some point.
And the biggest thing too with him is he's got to get the reps in and just know where he's going. So, but for him to be contributing.
How about Armstead, who again didn't have surgery again this year, has limped around the last couple years. Your thoughts there? How was he looking today? Is he moving around all right? I've questioned not going in and surgically repairing what's going on with him because it's been a couple seasons now that he's been playing on one leg.
Yeah, we've been talking about his potential and how big he is. He's got that big contract, and I'm now going to pass it to him because he said on my show the biggest thing he saw today was
that he was out there. I don't care if Ted Ginn caught 1,000 yards and worth of passes today. The fact he was out there in June, that's a good sign.
Yes.
And you don't speak to the media if you're hurt. And he walked in the locker room, he saw everybody rush to him, he said, all right, guys, let's just go to my locker. And spoke to the media, so he must be feeling good. Two positive signs.
Yeah. Guys, really big news this week, I think, and maybe a little bit under the radar. Dennis Lauscha, the chief executive for the Saints, started the conversation about Superdome renovations, about renewing the lease with the state of Louisiana. It's a far cry from the adversarial situation we've seen with the Saints and the state in the past. You get to the end of negotiations, it's kind of a gun to the head of the state to be able to get this thing done. The fact that, again, the Saints have already said that they're willing to work with the state, putting up money out of the club to be able to upgrade the dome. You look at the footprint of the city, there's just not another place to be able to put the arena and the dome, and you got to be able to modernize this building. We've seen that now with losing the last two Super Bowls, that again, this dome has to be modernized and continue to be modernized. And look, for us that live here and grew up here, I don't think we could think about a New Orleans without a Superdome on the skyline.
Right.
And the fact that they're starting this now, which I've been preaching now for a long time.
Yeah,
you don't want to wait until 2 or 3 years left of the lease before you start attacking this. You need to attack that now. $422,000 to Gerstner Sports out of San Francisco. They're going to do the mock-up and maybe some opportunities to be able to see what they can do to make the dome more fan-friendly. For the first time, taking a hard look at the terrace, which again has never been touched in any of these renovations except to make the seats a little bit smaller up there. I think this is a huge thing for the city of New Orleans and for the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, I've been on this on my show a lot over the last several months, and it's funny because you're seeing these articles and you're seeing this come to light, and I'm like, it's almost like they've been listening. But the point is that Dave, taken this approach like you're saying. We all budget in our lives to whatever it is. And the best way I describe it is, like you've seen the price tags. You've been, as you cover Super Bowls and this team on the road. The new facilities, they're night and day. You can just see them. And as I bring it up with our iPhones and stuff, the technology is constantly changing, the Wi-Fi and all this other stuff. The wiring, all of those things need to be upgraded and modernized. But you're not spending $1 billion.
Right.
It's not happening.
Right.
I like the budget that they gave this group. Anywhere between 150 to 500 million, come up with a number of options and what to do and how to do it and how to improve it. Take away the garages here. From aesthetics to game day enhancements. I mean, virtual reality technology in there. People are going, what do you need that for? Guys, you're going to see it probably this year. The NBA, I saw the demo when they came here for the NBA All-Star game. For $6.99, you can put that Oculus on and watch an NBA game in virtual reality, which is fabulous. And the NFL has got to do that next year, where you can go to a Super Bowl, or you can go to a Saints game, and you look up and you're left, and it's like you're in a seat. It's its own broadcast. It's amazing. But you have to think of that, but do it over the next 10 years like you're doing it, rather than all up ahead. I love it. I know he's going to like the fact the press box was mentioned as being upgraded.
No doubt.
It's the worst press box in all of humanity.
It went from one of the best to one of the worst.
It's horrible.
Right. The sightlines are horrible.
It's a journalist's pits of hell.
It really is.
You can't get down the elevator. No one wants to hear about that. But yeah, my colleague Jeff Duncan, he caught wind of that. He went to the owners' meetings in Chicago, and the Super Bowls were being discussed because LA got it ripped from them because they couldn't get the stadium done. And I think part of that, it was all within that the Saints and the Superdome knows to compete, they better make upgrades. And like you said, there's no new building coming.
No.
But they need to make upgrades. And look, one of the cool upgrades is, make it not be like you're playing in a basement. They're going to try to make some basically windows and you could see outside. But yeah, I've been to when they lost to Minneapolis. It was a stunner. And it was no surprise after that when they lost to Atlanta. To compete, they've got to upgrade. And it's a huge thing for the city, the region, to have this thing upgraded. And
it continues to add, again, maybe one or two more Super Bowls that we'll see, Final Fours, NCAA football championships, not to mention WWE wrestling, American WrestleMania. I mean, you got a lot of big events that again, are going to be domiciled in that dome. And the fact that they're getting on this now, I think is huge. It is huge because for a long time, the silence was deafening on that, and you can't wait till the last minute.
And to your point, the adversary approach, and Larry, you know this, it's such a huge difference. When that happened and they might walk away and, going to San Antonio, the team wasn't making the money they are. They're worth over $1 billion now. He has a basketball team that's worth $750 million. They have the money. That's why he's willing to he's got it. Right. So it's not where it was before, where he needed the state to pay him $12 million a year so he could be in the black.
Right.
That's not where this football team is. That's the biggest difference, because people are still a little nervous about that. You don't want to hear, the lease is up, because they remember the being held hostage feeling. This is when you hear they're going to renegotiate the lease, it's just because it has to be on paper and who's going to run the building and stuff.
No doubt.
They're not leaving anywhere.
And everybody seems to be on the same page, which is huge. Gus Kattengell, Larry Holder, great hour. Thanks so much for coming down tonight for Inside New Orleans Sports.
I carried him.
Gus, good to see you. Let me give you a noogie.
There you go. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program actually tonight at 10 o'clock on Cox 130. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock on Pelican, 10 o'clock right here on WLAE, and then 2 a.m. when Gus and Larry are getting in on Cox 130. Don't forget to catch me on the radio, 990 a.m. WGSO. That's 11 to 1 weekdays. You can catch us on the TuneIn Radio app at ericasher.com. And remember, every single episode of Inside New Orleans Sports can also be seen at ericasher.com as well. Again, special thanks to our guests, Larry Holder, Gus Kattengell, also to the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juno, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.